Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker is now just 24 days away from its official release by Disney, Lucasfilm, J.J. Abrams, and even creator George Lucas. That is all set and ready to end the Skywalker saga and the sequel trilogy itself. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars content. Now, one thing that a lot of fans are very curious about when it comes to this movie is exactly how Disney and Lucasfilm are going to handle many of the different revelations in this film that will tie into both the legacy characters as well as the sequel trilogy-based characters, and how it's really all going to intertwine in this story that's going to be treated as the culmination of the Skywalker saga that's going to change all 8 past Star Wars movies that come before this one. Now, we do know that J.J. Abrams has a plan in place in order to make this by far the most emotional Star Wars movie, let alone the darkest Star Wars film there is, out of the entire saga back, when it started back in 1977. Do I think it's going to top that of Revenge of the Sith as far as darkness goes? Not really. I feel that that's very much impossible to really top, but that's just my opinion. So with that moving forward, alright, what's really intriguing has all to do with everything of the adjustments by Disney and Lucasfilm, the changes and all the different shifts that they made with the second and third acts of the movie, and why it is a failure to some of the core characters like Luke and more, a part of the Skywalker saga. Now, specifically, what's really intriguing about this is that it's explained that through the various changes and adjustments to the film, during the months of August, September, and October, is when many shifts took place within the second and third acts of the movie. It's explained that one of the big changes had to do with a particular scene that was created by both J.J. Abrams and George Lucas, in which one of the scenes was going to involve Frank Oz as Yoda's Force ghost in the netherworld of the Force, communicating with both Rey and Kylo Ren and delivering them a vital lesson about the beyond and about the wills. Now, it's said that this scene was 100% finished before Disney and Lucasfilm decided to make some major changes to the overall film and deleted a handful of scenes that were directed by George Lucas and JJ. The scene was described to have the best practical effects and puppeteering work, with Frank Oz as Yoda, where another sequence that was cut from the film was a flashback sequence in which there was going to be a scene between Luke Skywalker and Han Solo reuniting in the form of a flashback when Han Solo drops Ben Solo off at Luke Skywalker's Jedi training temple to train through the ways of the Jedi and the Force. It said that in the scene, de-aging technology was going to be used on Adam Driver to make him appear far younger when he was dropped off by his father Han, and even involved the Millennium Falcon sitting in the background with Chewbacca, also reuniting with Luke. However, though Leia was not able to make it to the scene due to limitations with the unused footage of The Last Jedi that they had. This scene in particular was cut mainly due to the structure of the second act being completely changed by Disney and Lucasfilm, as well as Kathleen Kennedy. The sequence would have involved Luke's Jedi training students also meeting Ben Solo for the first time, and would have tapped a bit into Ben Solo's backstory, training as a Jedi. These scenes were actually said to be replaced with other flashback sequences affiliated with Rey's parents and her family. So let's go over a couple of parts about this. Now, the reason as to why this is a big failure on Disney and Lucasfilm's part is because this would have really expanded not only the Force and added a different medium to the franchise, but it would have really added on to Luke Skywalker's backstory as well as Ben Solo's. In replacement of this, they're tapping into a flashback of Rey's parents. Now, I don't know about you, but I find the backstory of Ben Solo far more interesting than Rey's parents. That's just my take on things. I want to know more about Ben Solo on film, as opposed to just seeing it in a book. I like to see things, visually speaking, of course, on the big screen, and I think that's what a lot of fans love to see when it comes to the Star Wars films and its core characters. So, the one big problem with this is the fact that a lot of these changes had all to do with reshoots and the restructure of the second act of Episode 9. In case you guys are not aware, the major reshoots that took place in August, September, and October, J.J. Abrams talked about this just yesterday on Good Morning America and other interviews that he was involved with, stating that, of course, this movie does in fact have a lot of reshoots that happened before in the past that changed many different elements of the movie, but they are now finally done with The Rise of Skywalker and putting it all together. So, this particular moment involving both Luke and Han reuniting would have been a great opportunity to really get the fans back together. I think it really would have drawn in a lot more fans to go ahead and see this movie, and the fact that it's now cut of showing us the exact moment in which Ben Solo is dropped off by his own father Han Solo and was going to meet Luke Skywalker for the first time in a very long time. Now, that's the thing. If you guys actually know about Ben Solo and Luke, you will learn that the childhood of Ben Solo, though we know little to nothing about that, there is an element of Ben Solo having an estranged uncle, and that of course is Luke, because Luke was always busy, he was always away, he was doing all these different missions with R2-D2, thousands of missions, I must add, basically uncovering Jedi lore and secrets of the Force. So, what's also a big problem about this is that they once again missed a great opportunity to really explore something very much valuable with the characters of Kylo Ren / Ben Solo and Luke, let alone Han Solo, being portrayed by Harrison Ford once more at the very end of the Skywalker saga. It really was a missed opportunity. It would have been a golden moment for fans to enjoy, and they instead replaced it with a sequence that would serve as a flashback for Rey's parents. As far as the Yoda scene goes, this doesn't necessarily mean that Yoda is no longer in the film. There were several scenes involving Yoda, but this one in particular was going to involve Yoda providing a vital lesson to both Rey and Kylo Ren during their time over in the netherworld of the Force. And that to me would have really added a different medium to the franchise. It would have given the fans something very different to see on the big screen, something else that they have never seen before in the past 8 Star Wars movies. And that to me I think would have really evolved Star Wars and would have really brought it in a different direction by taking a risk but bringing things in a positive way, right? Kind of showing us exactly what it's like over in the netherworld in that particular moment, specifically where Yoda gives them a lesson about the origins of the beyond and of course of the galaxy and the Force. Now, the thing about Episode 9 is that this movie is going to be very heavy on Jedi, Sith, and Force lore still, but it seems as so that they're really kind of just backing away from it a little bit in order to dial it down. I'm not quite sure how a lot of fans are going to react to that once they go ahead and see this movie. Now, Han Solo and Luke, let me tell you, I mean, that's a missed opportunity. That is something that fans have wanted to see ever since The Force Awakens back in 2015, that was never delivered for The Last Jedi, that a lot of fans also wanted to see. So that's another missed opportunity, and something that I think fans would have really loved and would have actually caused the fandom to become reunited, I believe at least. I think it would have definitely helped in a dramatic way, to the point where a lot of fans could at least see The Rise of Skywalker for what it is, where they were actually having a lot of issues with The Last Jedi. There are people out there boycotting this movie still because of what happened with The Last Jedi, and that's perfectly fine. Everybody has their own opinions, and everybody can do exactly what they want to do. Whether they want to see this movie or not, you know, that's their decision, that's fine. But I believe that this scene in particular absolutely would have drawn in a larger audience to go ahead and see the final installment of of the Skywalker saga for Episode 9. So the last piece I just want to go over here that I think is very important is that we do know that Disney and Lucasfilm did a lot of these changes because they were shifting elements of the second and the third acts of the movie in order to better fit the character of Palpatine, Rey, and Kylo Ren, and that entire dynamic in the Star Wars movie, right? So a lot of those were changed, and a lot of those scenes were replaced and pretty much, reshot or altered, but this one in particular, alongside with the Yoda one, completely deleted and will never see the light of day, at least in the finalized version of the movie in theaters. Hopefully this makes it to the Blu-ray edition of Episode 9, where we do get to see that, moment in which both Luke and Han reunite, where he gets to meet his own nephew for the first time in years. I think would have been a very heartwarming moment for Luke. And not just for Luke, but I think it would have really touched the fans' emotions. And they would have actually really appreciated that scene by Disney and Lucasfilm. It just seems like a lot of the really good stuff is either taken out or is reworked into something a little bit less. And that, I think, is not a good sign for The Rise of Skywalker and what's actually due in December of this year. So anyways, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think about all this in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.